3D Christmas Mickey Mouse Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hello everybody, in today's video I have I always say this, but this is probably got to be her favorite Christmas design. It is a Christmas Mickey Mouse, and I actually did a Christmas Mickey design set, I think in 2015, that was hand painted on my own nails. And if you guys want to see a comparison shot between now and approximately 4 years ago, I think it was 2015. To just see how far my art has progressed, I would highly recommend it. I'll put a link to that past video in the description box below. So if you, I know I have a lot of people comment on my thing saying, how did you get so good? Perseverance and lot of practice. And you can definitely see it comparing these two designs. So I hope you guys like that little element of it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
I'm going to begin with an overlay of clear acrylic over the whole thing, and then I'm just going to paint it with some gel polish from the Madam Glam Advent Calendar, so just go ahead and cover that up. And if you guys are curious about that Advent Calendar, it's such a nice way to get to try out a whole bunch of different colors, because there are 24 gel colors for the first 24 days of December, and then there is a little surprise at the end of it as well. So it's kind of a fun little thing, especially if you don't have a huge collection. You get to try out a bunch to see what you like or what you're missing. So that's, yeah, it's nice. So anyways, file the nail into shape, and then I'm going to be applying 2 coats of the color Shimmer White, which has always been one of my favorites from Madam Glam. It has it's much more pigmented than any other shimmery white from other brands that I've tried, which is something that's always a good thing. So apply 2 coats of that, and then finish that with a layer of matte gel top coat. Actually, no, glossy gel top coat. Ignore me. And then I'm going to be sculpting my Mickey Mouse. So I started out with kind of a lighter shade of acrylic than I would say I would imagine his face would be, because then we can darken it and add some shadows and some depth later on. So start out with kind of a light creamy color, sculpt his basic face shape, and then take the tip of your brush and carve in some details. So I carved in his mouth and his smile, and then take just the tip of your brush and sort of flatten out the areas where his face is black, so just like the top little triangles there. Add some depth to his nose and sort of sculpt his snout out. You can add more acrylic if you want to add some more height to it. Otherwise, if you didn't want it to be as tall or as 3D, you wouldn't have had to. But then take some black acrylic and fill in those little triangles that I mentioned. You don't have to add his full, like the top of his head with black, and add that whole area there, because his little Santa hat will cover that up. So it's not necessary. You can just add the 2 little triangles, so 1 on each side, just like that. And when you're doing this, try to make sure that your black acrylic is slightly on the wetter side, so that it just sort of fills in those areas without having to mess around with it too much. Add his little black nose, just like that. Same thing. My black acrylic is a 3D acrylic, which means that it holds its shape up really, really well, and if you want it to kind of self-level and smooth itself out on its own, you have to work with it very, very wet. I also added 1 of his ears at this point, and you'll see why in a minute that I just did 1. But then with red acrylic, I'm going to be adding the top of his shirt. So he's kind of crooked on the nail, or like coming up from the side, which I think is a really cute style. And so you don't see too much of like the rest of his outfit, but just the very top of his shirt. And then add the Santa hat coming up. And the reason that I did 1 ear is because you're going to do an ear and then overlap the Santa hat on top of that first ear we did. And then in a moment, we'll add the second ear that overlaps on top of the Santa hat. Add a little scarf with a nice Christmassy green. Nice bright green. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to be adding that second ear. So you get kind of a layered effect if you do ear, hat, ear this way. And it makes it look a little bit more dimensional than if you were to just do the hat on top of both ears. With white acrylic, we're going to be adding some trim on his hat and his white glove. So he's got his little hand on his hip in a very classic Mickey Mouse pose. So sculpt his little glove there. You can't really see too much of the details just in the white acrylic. That I did more with the gel polish and some acrylic paint later. And then on the hat, add the little tuft of fur on the end of the hat, as well as the fur trim going across Mickey's head. Just like that. And then I'm going to go back with my red acrylic, and I'm going to be adding the arm. So just tuck that in right by the glove. And now I'm going to take the color French Valley, which is a medium gray, and I'm going to be adding some highlights on the black, so on his ears and that little side of his face and on his nose, and some shadows on the white fur trim. So that's kind of the funny thing with this color, is that you can highlight and shadow with it both. So add those little bits on the trim and on his glove. You can blend that out if you dip your brush and get it just slightly damp with some nail cleanser. You can blend out your gel polish. And then I'm going to take the color Very Chic, which is a burgundy. I'm going to be adding some shadows on my red. Just very subtle, very smooth little shadows on there. And then with the color Stylishly Fashionable, I'm going to be adding some shadows on his face. Like I said, I sculpted it initially a little bit of a more pale color than I would want the end result to be. That way I can darken it with this color now. And it's got a slightly pink hue to it, which makes it so you can also kind of use it to give him some color to his face. Add some shadows around the top of his forehead where he'd have a shadow from the hat, and then create little shadows for where his eyes will be. Don't actually have to worry about, outlining the eyes or anything at this point, just kind of create a shadow for them. And then I'm going to just keep working on that and keep adding details, add some more highlights on his nose if you want to, and flash cure whenever you feel is necessary. And you can go back and forth and do it whenever you want. I also added some of that Very Chic color into his mouth, and then with the color True Fire Brick Red, I'm going to add some highlights to the hat and to his shirt. That's a very, very bright, classic red. Makes me think of Marilyn Monroe. And then with the color Lost in the Woods, I added some depth to the scarf. And now I'm going to be adding some highlights with very bright white paint. So on the fur trim, and then on his glove, and this is where you really get to see the individual fingers and like the part of the glove that goes up the wrist. A little highlight on his nose, and then fill in his eyes with white. Don't completely cover up those little first areas that we created with the color Stylishly Fashionable, which is very hard to say, almost stylishly fashionable, but fill them in almost completely with the white eyes. Add some little black outlines as well. Outline his smile. Anything that you think needs to have the black outline, go ahead and add it. Anything that feels like it should be a little bit more sharp and crisp, you can go ahead and clean that up around the hat, around his face. Any place especially that is next to the background color that's a lighter color. So his face and glove and hat and all those things, so that they really stand out against that shimmery white background. Add a couple more details on his hat. Separate it so that you can see the fingers better. And then with black, you're also going to want to add the pupils. So there's the first one, and there's the second one. It'd be very cute if you did a set of these and then you had a Minnie Mouse to go with him. It would be absolutely adorable. I'm going to be finishing off my Mickey Mouse with a layer of matte gel top coat over the whole thing, and then curing this one final time, and that is it. Like I said, if you want to see that past video that is not nearly as cute, I will put a link to it in the description box below, or I'll have comparison shots on Instagram. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!